Nani, how do you take notes? I've been DMing for a while now, but I feel my planning isn't good and worry it affects the fun of the game. So notes are a really tricky thing. When I first started running the game, I would write down like specific individual like quotes that like NPCs. I would write down. I would have these whole like little NPC profiles on these note cards because I'm like, I've got to have all these people to reference, and I don't know what they're gonna say or what they're gonna need to say. Now just a bulleted list of like usually names are something that I don't like having to come up with on the spot. So I'll put like, here are the 15 people that are probably that could. That's a lot. I would never do that. Here are the 6 or 7 people that are like named in this tavern, let's say, and something about them that I think would be interesting. And I know that I can improvise that character on the spot. That's fun for me. I can say like, okay, here's a half giant named Door, right? And he's got like, and I just wrote down that he has like blue tinted skin. Maybe he's grumpy or whatever. I'll decide a lot of that in the moment. And then we kind of create them, and it's more like I'm taking notes about like, okay, who was this person that I just made up on the fly? Clearly, I need to write names down ahead of time because Door is not a great name. Now, in terms of like planning and note taking for a session, I type up all my notes. I print all of my notes out 4 up. So I type a bunch of stuff and then I print it so that on a single sheet of paper I have 4 pages on it. I try to make those kind of tied together. So if it's like a combat, I've usually got like, what I think could lead into a combat, and the stat blocks that are relevant. So it's all on kind of one sheet of paper. I don't have a bunch of notes. So then when I have all those, I might only have 2, 3 sheets of paper that I actually need as notes when I run a game. And I'll take notes on top of that, like around what I planned, sort of my outline and sort of ideas. And then I'll just 3-hole punch that and stick it into a binder. Each binder gets a name and the most relevant map on the front cover. These binders help me keep multiple campaigns somewhat organized all at once. When I run out of space in one binder, I start a second one, or a third, or now I have sort of record of. You would remember if I had notes, that's right. Gotcha. I don't think anything of it. I do think that like running a sci-fi and especially like a space type game is something I want to do, but probably once one of my weekly campaigns finishes. I'm not sure if I would do anything with Star Trek. Doing something in a genre is less exciting to me unless I've done it a couple of times before. Like I read all the Harry Potter books just to run a Harry Potter one shot for some friends who would only play D&D. If I could make it Harry Potter themed, and that was really fun. Sergio, any anecdotes where your players made something more important and interesting that you didn't prepare for? A good example, a good example is this Clockwork Dungeon that I've been running. I created a dwarven inventor's sort of clockwork shifting 16-room dungeon that is sort of a puzzle in a few layers, and it's something I want to work on some more because I think it could be really fun to make and release for people to play. The premise is sort of you go down to a room, and each room, as you unlock things, allows you into further rooms, blah, blah, blah. But it's a very, very, very advanced sort of workshop with all these sort of locks and doors and stuff. And I didn't realize how much my fairly experienced party would dedicate themselves to trying to break through the walls. They really, really wanted to break through the walls and effectively break the dungeon. Now, it makes sense, I guess, because it's a little bit different than sort of a stone dungeon, but it is a little bit of like, okay, well, that's a wall. It's going to be really, really hard for you to just like pound your way through there. But they tried so much that I did some prep in between because this dungeon is like 3 or 4 sessions minimum, right? That I did some prep in between sessions to make sure that, okay, if they go this route, there's some ways that they could accomplish this. Not just by slamming a sledgehammer into it necessarily, because it's fairly well made. But if they do, now I've got a plan for that. That's not exactly making a thing special, but it's like, okay, kind of obsessing with a way through that it's like, okay, I'll, because sometimes the answer is no. And in the way that the players were trying to sort of break the dungeon, I was like, no, you can't, you don't have anything that does that. Nani, thanks. I'm always looking for planning techniques that I can stick with. I always struggle with planning, and I've improved my improv by sheer practice. That's awesome. I do have some shorts on my channel, some short videos that touch on things like brainstorming and note taking. I'll have to, I'll have to make those more accessible. I think I have a brainstorming command here in chat, but I'm not sure I have one for note taking especially. Proper nouns. It's all about the proper nouns. When you hear one, start a page, or better yet, a 2-page spread, and dedicate it to that name. Then come back to that page anytime the name comes up during a session. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, I need to put white text on these bricks.